Okay, now that you have Sublime installed, we can start organizing our first website. The first thing we want to do is create our root directory. This is the folder that is going to contain all the files for your website. The best practices for naming your root directory are lowercase text without spaces. If text separation is needed, only use underscores or hyphens and no special characters. Okay, let's create one. I recommend going to your desktop because it's the easiest place to find something. The shortcut to create a new folder is Shift-Command-N. And I'm just going to call it my first website. So there it is, my first website. And if we open it up, it's going to be an empty folder. So the next thing we're going to do is create 3 more folders. We're going to create a folder for our scripts, a folder for our styles, and a folder for our images. Now we're not going to be using any of these folders today, but I just want to get you in the habit of creating the basic folder structures that you'll need for any website moving forward. I'm going to go back to my desktop, and in my first website directory, I'm going to create a scripts, which will house our JavaScript, an images folder for our images, and a styles folder, which will house our CSS. So now that we have our folders created and our root directory created, we're going to create our first page, and this is going to be our home page. And we're going to call it index.html. Why index.html? Index.html is just a default name that basically every server uses to grab your home page, to grab the default page for your website. So if we were doing yoursite.com/contact us, that is something specific. But if it's yoursite.com, whatever your site name is, it's going to look for index.html. Let's head over to Sublime Text, and you can either go Command-N to create a new file or File, New File. I suggest that you get comfortable with using the keyboard because it will help speed up your development. So I'm going to go Command-N and Shift-Command-S and click on my first website, and we're just going to call it index.html. And notice I'm not putting it inside of any folder. I'm just calling it index.html and putting it in the root directory. So I hit save, and if we go to our directory file, you can see index.html here now. So now that we have created our first page, let's just create 2 more pages, which we will use at a later date. So when you are creating additional pages, there are some best practices for naming conventions. Lowercase is very important because some web servers are case sensitive. Browsers and web servers and programming languages don't handle spaces consistently, so it's important to never actually put a space in your file name. If you need a space, use a hyphen. So file-name.html. Additionally, if you're worried about SEO, if you're worried about optimizing your website for search engines, which I think everyone needs to be highly critical of, you definitely want to use a hyphen because Google interprets that as a separator, whereas it doesn't do that for an underscore. So let's go and create 2 more pages in our root directory. So I'm back in Sublime, and I'm going to hit Command-N for a new file and Shift-Command-S, and we're going to do contact us.html. Save, and I'm going to create one more, Shift-Command-S, and this will be about.html. So if we go back to our folder, you can see we now have our about page, our contact us, and our home page. In the next video, we'll start working on our structural requirements for a web page.